Hello all. I'm making this video to talk about some of the Star Trek 3D modeling projects that I've been considering. I have a whole bunch of source material here. Another channel, in fact, I'm probably going to post this on his chat. He's using this picture to make a Connie style Enterprise, like an NOx Enterprise. It's kind of an interesting ship, and he's doing a really good job on his model series for this ship. I give him kudos for that. One of the things I've been working on is 1/72nd scale plans for, I would say the Enterprise, but I'm actually wanting to make the Constitution. This, I believe, this is actually a picture of the 10-foot model that was used in the series, filming the series. And one of the reasons, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but one of the reasons you tend to see the starboard side of the ship is because on the port side there's no windows, there's no decals. This area here with these, I think they're dockyard strakes actually is what this was supposed to be. So like when they're in the dockyard, they have holding clamps or something. Anyway, on this side of the ship, there's not one of these on the port side of the ship. On the secondary hull, or this was called the engineering hull. This saucer was actually called the primary hull on this ship. And anyway, that's kind of a nice picture. You can kind of see the holding clamps holding the ship up, and they have refurbished this ship. They got a whole bunch of images from, they had a lot of black and white pictures, but they ended up getting a hold of some nice Kodachrome color slides that people took. And they also did some ultraviolet and some x-rays and stuff, and they refurbished the ship to basically, it's supposed to be the second season. Yeah, it's supposed to be from the second season. Kind of notice up here, it seems like this edge is like bent or dented in or something. I don't know if it's just the way the black is against. It might just be kind of like a shadow of the picture, but anyway, this model was basically 186.6666. For all intents and purposes, it's 1/87th scale, which is the same as the HO train scale. So if any of you people that do HO trains, you know how small an HO train scale is. So imagine the ship is 10 feet long. If you had 10 foot of train, of HO scale, 1/87 scale train, you can imagine the size of this ship. Okay, let's go out of here. This is an early shot of. This is actually in scale. Whoops. Come on, mouse wheel. This is actually the original Romulan bird of prey that I started working on. And from information, I'm trying to basically recreate as close as possible the filming model, which actually doesn't exist anymore. But I want to recreate the filming model. The blueprints for the ship aren't exactly like the filming model due to, well, I'll kind of show you here. Let's see. This is actually a toy. This here is actually, it's a model in a sense, but it's a toy. And it's actually fairly close to what the filming model was like, other than it's a little more basic. But the actual wings, this is supposed to be a modern Romulan shuttle. You can't really see the wings on that one. Okay, here's a good shot. This is actually from the 60s when they filmed this, when they were filming this for Balance of Terror. And as you can see, kind of, and it's at an angle, but as you can see, the engine pylon wings that are holding these engines up, they're not really holding the engines up that high. They don't seem to have a high pitch to them. But on blueprints, here we go. Blueprints and line drawings, they tend to really skew up. I mean, these engines are well above the bridge. And I'm sorry, my toolbar's kind of in the way here with this picture. I could open it and I could actually open it in Photoshop. Here's a digital, actually, and it's kind of hard to see because it's digital. Let's blow this up a little bit. Hopefully it doesn't distort it too much. This is actually digital re-render for the digital, the redigitized Star Trek episodes. And this is kind of interesting too, because if you notice in this, they really they raised the engines up higher, and they put some panel lines on here, so it looks more metallic. It looks more like a man-made object kind of, and they have the paint of the birds, the bird of prey's wing feathers and stuff, kind of like how they had on the blueprint. But they kind of digitally remade this to look more like the blueprints, and the blueprints. It's kind of ironic. The blueprints came after the actual model. They had paid somebody, which I guess they never gave them credit. Their name was never on the series. A Japanese man actually built this model for Balance. They used it in Balance of Terror, and I think they filmed it, or that they used some of the shots from Balance of Terror in another episode, if I remember right. But they didn't give him credit, and he was pretty upset, and he actually took the ship and destroyed it. The story that I've heard or read is that he actually got mad, and he took this model and he destroyed it. And that's why one of the reasons in the next episode where you see the Romulans, they're in D7 Klingon ships, and where they steal the cloaking device, and they kind of, even they comment that they're in Klingon ships, kind of, and stuff like that. And if you see this, I don't know who did this render or picture or whatever, but this is kind of interesting because this looks more like the first filming model, the wings, and I call them wing pylons because supposedly this actually had landing pads. This could land on a planet and in this picture, in a sense, the Enterprise would be, the perspective of this is that the Enterprise would actually be quite a ways off there. The Klingon ship, well, I'll give you an idea. I'm laying out plans for 13-foot models of these physical models. Well, the Enterprise, which I actually, like I said, I want to make it the Constitution. I want to make it NCC 1700. And I want to build it in 1/72nd scale. And in 1/72nd scale, the Constitution class, original series Enterprise, or Constitution, would be, it's just under 13 feet long, like a quarter of an inch, eighth of an inch, something like that. It's just you could basically say it's 13 feet. So this is a 13-foot ship model, which is a little bigger than the 10-foot Smithsonian. And I actually want it to where, if you look on both sides of it, you have the windows, the dry dock strakes, or whatever you want to call them, supports. The Klingon D7 is 10 feet compared to the 13-foot Enterprise. The Enterprise would be 3 feet longer. So if you actually blew that up into full scale, that's about 100, 150 feet. It's a good little chunk of change. This ship here, the Romulan Bird of Prey, the original series Romulan Bird of Prey, is 4 feet wide and 3 feet long, give or take. Maybe a little different, but it's basically 4 foot by 3 foot in 1/72nd scale. The primary hull on the Enterprise is 5 foot 9 inch in diameter. So there's some fan. In fact, I got some stills of it. This is actually from one of the last Star Trek Continues. This is actually the Congo, which is 1716, which is kind of interesting because they really screwed up in the original series with the numbering system on the Constitution class starships. This is from that episode also. And again, actually, this is much closer to what the actual original filming model was. The wing pylons don't hold the engine super high up over the bridge and stuff. The only heartburn I have a little bit with this ship, and it's not a big beef, but it's a little bit of a beef. The way they shoot it, and of course if you was up here, you would have this kind of a view. And it makes this ship look really big, which, but if you was up here, that's what it would look like, so that's not a problem. Okay, here's another shot. Here's a shot with the Enterprise and the Romulan ship above the Enterprise. And like I was explaining, this in 1/72nd scale would be 5 foot 9 inches. The diameter of this primary saucer at the outer edge. Okay, this is 4 feet. And that's from the widest part of the engine nacelle to the widest part of the engine nacelle here. So this ship is, I don't know, 2/5 too big. It's too big compared to the Enterprise. But in some of the Star Trek movies, they made the Klingon Bird of Prey, which is actually, again, that's a ship that's quite small compared to this ship here. They made them look really big. They had perspective. Now see, I don't mind this one. This one this one looks real good where you're looking at the Enterprise and you see the Romulan ship off in the distance. But you don't really know how far apart they are, but it's smaller, so this would actually be quite close, where they're probably trying to make it that it's a little ways off. Again, here's a good shot. You see the Bird of Prey. You got the nice orange and black, and you got the Enterprise, and it's posed in a sense up above, like a bird, an eagle would be coming down to swoop on you and stuff. Okay, now here's a shot where, from the side, Enterprise, Romulan Bird of Prey is above it, and I don't want to spoil the episode if anybody hasn't seen the episode. I don't want to basically tell what happens. The only reason that these ships are aligned like this is because they were cooperating, and the Enterprise is shooting a tractor beam on them, and they're shooting a tractor beam on the Enterprise, and they basically used a trick where they used both of their warp drive engines, and they connected the two ships together with the tractor beams so that they could get to somewhere. They were going somewhere, and they wanted to go faster, and this is the solution they came up with, and they were actually kind of cooperating. And I said, I don't want to go more into it because I, don't want to do a spoiler alert. In a sense, I don't want to tell you the story. I'm just telling you the part of the story that they were cooperating for a time in the show, and that they connected the two ships so that they could haul ass basically and go faster than warp 10. kind of a thing was the theory. And we had a lot of nice, pretty shots here. This was all done CG graphics. I think I can't remember his name, but I think all of this stuff is done by the. He actually worked on Deep Space Nine, and he didn't do graphics on there. He helped do some special effects, but he wasn't like a CGI graphics guy back then. He was like into wardrobe and different things, but he's actually worked both on Star Trek Continues and Star Trek Phase 2. He's like one of the only guys that has worked on both of the fan series. And, that's pretty shocking. Like I said, one of the reasons they're doing this with making this Romulan so big is so that it just looks cool. It looks cool on screen. Me being a modeler, I've always kind of been aggravated with some of that kind of crap. And here they're facing the barrier. They went to the Great Barrier, which is one of the first episodes of Star Trek. Is they dealt with the barrier. It was either the first. It wasn't the first. I don't think it was the first. Might have been the first pilot. Not the first pilot. The first what they call series pilot that they actually showed on TV. This is kind of interesting. You see this little detail up in there. They got balls in there. Where in the original model, it was just basically like plugged down in the end, and it was black. Black. Because I just thought it would be cool, maybe either to put lights in there or stuff like that. But in this, of course, this is supposed to be a Starfleet ship, kind of a thing, kind of like a freighter. But you would tell that if you take those windows, that would be really small. But you notice that it has kind of like the Federation. They look like miniature Enterprise engines, kind of thing. So, but that's kind of neat. They have they got a little deflector dish, and then it just kind of looks like I don't know. I wouldn't really call it a coffin, but it just it's a little. It's not a pretty ship. You'd almost think they would make it stylish, but it might be the Yugo of spaceships or something like that. So, and this is, of course, the Enterprise is looking at the Congo, which is, they say it's sister ship, but that's kind of funny because when I was in the Navy, I was on the USS Kitty Hawk, which was CV-63, and our sister ship was the Constellation, which was CV-64. Per se, we never called the Ranger our sister ship, or the Nimitz our sister ship. But in Star Trek, it's kind of like there was 14 original Constitution class ships, and you could argue that they're all sister ships in a sense because they were the same class. And okay, let's go. These are some other stuff. This is actually one of the first designs for Enterprise for the Romulan ship one of the Romulan ships they encounter in an episode of Enterprise. They actually first encounter the Romulans, and I actually brought the picture in. This isn't the one that they ended up using at the end. But it's very, very simple. The outline's pretty much the same. He just changed it around a little. I think he took these off. He made the engines a little bit different. I think he got rid of these under. But it's pretty similar. But the heartburn that I've had with this ship, there's a couple things I really don't like about it. For one, it looks like it comes from the 24th century. It looks more like a ship from Star Trek: The Next Generation than it does the original series or before. This is supposed to be almost 100 years before, Jim Kirk Star Trek. Okay, and if we'll blow this up here, it's green, which was more of the Next Generation. The original series, they weren't really green. And you couldn't kind of tell some of the colors on the ships. They all looked white and or grayish, where the Klingon D7 was a green and a gray, and the Romulan ship was kind of a grayish white. The Enterprise was actually a shade of duck blue. Duck, they called it duck eggshell blue. And I had bought a model, one of the 1/650 scale models in about, I think it was 1982 or 3. I'd built quite a few of the models, but the models were always white. And I had bought a model in maybe 81. I think I was in 11th grade. But anyways, I bought this model, a 1/650 scale Enterprise, and this thing was light blue. The whole ship, the plastic, and it was light blue. And I was like, what the? I couldn't. It's like, what the hell? Why did they make the ship, like light blue? And then I had found out later that basically that was the color. Okay, so anyways, let's see. I showed you all of the shots. Now, what I was working on with this picture in Blender is I wanted to make a Romulan bird of prey that would be more appropriate looking, I think, for the episode in Enterprise where they meet the Romulans. And the other thing, I said I had a couple of beefs with the ship. One was that it looks way too modern, and it's the colors of like the ships in the Next Generation. It's even got the lighted engine side things, and the engines look way advanced and stuff. The other thing I don't like about this ship is if you actually put the ship besides the original Romulan bird of prey, it's a lot bigger. This is like a 240 meter ship or something. This is in some ways as big as the original Enterprise, if not bigger. The TOS Enterprise, not the NX-01. So, it's almost like they had an extra large, more modern ship than what they had 100 years later. And it's also one of the reasons I don't like. I haven't even watched no episode of Discovery. I just can't stand it. I do find it interesting that they're in the next season that they're supposedly going to run up on the USS Enterprise with Captain Pike on it and stuff. I might have to break down and watch it just to see what I think, I guess. But I watched the episodes of the Orville, and I can't deal with Star Trek. I like the guy that plays the captain, like Discovery. I can't deal with Discovery. From what I can tell on Discovery, all the actors that play Klingons are black, and they make the Klingons look like crabs. And I can't deal with Discovery. I don't really like the new movies all that much, but they're not bad movies. They're entertaining. I did watch the newer one where they're in the giant space station city in the tube and stuff like that, and just I don't know, the story's okay, but I can't stand that ship, and I hate the way they redo the cannon and stuff like that. Okay, this is an angle shot, and obviously this is a Romulan bird of prey ship, but this is one that I made in Blender, and I used this shape. Basically, I kind of stole the guy's shape. I did take the shape. I kind of like the way they got it shaped. I just don't care for the detail, the color, and the size of the ship. But it is an interesting concept, and I wanted to make the ship more like the original series. But what I did is the scale I made this in this is actually about 2/3 of the size of the original bird of prey. So it's like the bird of prey, but it's smaller. And, here's a top shot. So this is kind of sort of the bridge area. And I can do a little bit more work on this. Looks like I got some shading. Well, I haven't textured it for one. Instead of tapering the engine, kind of like how the whole engine's tapered on the original bird of prey, I basically made the sides straight tubed, and then I tapered them after they come off the wing pylons. I did, however, use kind of like the big wing pylons. Since this is a smaller ship, and the engines are smaller, I did stick them out further away from the ship, and I didn't want to just copy the bird of prey and reduce its size. I wanted it to look like the bird of prey, but yet I wanted it to have the features a little bit different, so it's not as kind of squared out. The actual bird of prey has a wider, like a fantail, I guess you would call it. It has a wider area on the bottom. Okay, here's a side view. Again, you notice I don't have the engine super high. They're more lower. They look kind of like more like an aircraft wing, which actually, if they, you could kind of argue that if this thing is made so that it could enter the atmosphere of a planet, and the wings could actually be somewhat useful for, aerodynamic support, and or even though it doesn't have ailerons like an airplane, and it doesn't have a rudder like an airplane, but if you had thruster jets and stuff like that, because you wouldn't be using the warp engines, you would either be using like an impulse engine or the like thrusters to maybe direct the directions so that you can maneuver this thing down and land it on the ground. But this is the concept. Okay, now here's a front shot. Now at this point I did make the Bussard collectors kind of like a bluish color, just so that it had a little more detail. And on the original, if I remember, I think they had like a big main tube, and then they had two small, kind of like support tubes or something. And on this one, I kind of like put the two, I made two basically torpedo tubes, because at this point, if I was to write a story about this, or make up a story about this, I wouldn't have them having a super duper plasma weapon. Maybe they'd have a plasma weapon, but I think it would be more like they would be firing missiles, and or maybe they might have a primitive photon torpedo. Here's the top view with the where I started detailing, like texturing the warp engine thrust, and the tubes on the ends, and or like I said, I kind of made that bluish. I could make it kind of a greenish. There's a little bit of artistic license. I haven't put any. I need to put like the windows so you can kind of tell the scale of this thing. I don't remember exactly. I need to look at the, because I don't know what the scale. I think it's 100. No, it's not. It's more than 100. The Enterprise, if I remember right, is 296 meters, and this, I think, is 140 meters. Where the actual Romulan bird of prey, like I said, the new ones were like 240 meters or something like that. And the original Romulan bird of prey, I think, 130 meters. It's good sized. It's just not as big as the original bird of prey, because I thought it would make more sense if they ran into a smaller Romulan ship. Then, now this is kind of nice. Let's blow this up a hair, because I actually put a little bit of detail in the, you can see the tubes a little better, the little launch tubes. I think I shortened that out a little bit. This part of the saucer hull has more pitch to it than the original one too. It's more sloped back. And then I did a little bit of shaping with this wing. I kind of, instead of making it just flat, how the guy had it in the original, I made it a little bit more, a little curve and stuff on it. So I can still do something with it. I don't want to go overboard with detailing it, but I want to detail it, but I don't want to detail it to where it makes it look ridiculous or You know, like I said, I want it to kind of look primitive. I want it to look original series. You know, it's digital. I am thinking about using kind of that panel, that digital panel thing where I have panel lines. I am considering that because I think that wouldn't be out of place. I kind of like the way they made it gray silver too with the panels and stuff. Okay, here's a bottom shot. And what is interesting on this too is I kind of have this sharp. Now I have the option of smoothing that out, or I have the option of leaving it kind of flat like that, where it actually could lower down on the blueprints. They have one circle, two circle, and they have a third circle, and the third circle comes down, and then it actually has a ramp where they walk off of the ship, like I said, if it lands on the surface. So I could do something kind of similar to this, but I've also thought about if you had the bottom of the ship with a hard spot, or, you know, and like I said, it wouldn't have, this doesn't really necessarily have to be a sharp line. It could be smoothed out, but it could still have, you could still have a flat area where the ship could actually kind of like, it could just land. I mean, the wings are up out of the way and stuff. You could almost just land this thing flat, or like I said, maybe have a area where it actually would, like the whole bottom of this would go down a little bit, and then maybe part of the back, same thing, have a exit ramp. And I think they kind of got that idea from the Bird of Prey in the Star Trek movie, where they stole the Klingon Bird of Prey, and the back end had a ramp where they walked out. So let's see, I'm on 31 minutes. I don't want to make this video super. Oh, I think what you just seen is what I was doing here is I think I had this engine like this. This engine was further. I don't think I had it in the right place. If I remember right. Yeah. I didn't have my spacing right here or something, which I'll have to double check the model when I get back into it. And I think this was the correction with the width, because for some reason it doesn't. For some reason it doesn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's almost 7 to the outside. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I think that centered it out. Where the picture behind, I think this was too far out, so I had to reposition the engine to make it right. Not like this is correct. And I think you might have caught a little glimpse of that. I was flipping through them real fast. This is actually, I took the bird from the original. I took the silhouette from the original, one of the models actually. This is actually from a model template. And I was dinking around because it didn't really fit right because of the way this ship is shaped. It's shaped a lot, even though it's shaped similar to the original Romulan Bird of Prey, it's not exact. So the problem was that I actually had to kind of like rescale the wings, and then what it would probably have to do is connect these lines a little bit, or, you know, because I actually had to kind of cut these wings down and stuff so that this would fit on here, and or I clipped the tail feathers a little bit. You'd have to either wrap them to the side, like basically bend them over into the side, or I would have to possibly move these wings down like they are kind of on the original ship and match them up on that line. So, but it still gives you an idea that they could have the bird on there. You know, so I might have to modify it, or I would have to actually kind of like use the same idea, but like taper these wings, because you can see how like the curves kind of don't match. I might have to actually make a bird with longer wings and have the wings come out fat, and then kind of like taper these feathers down more like this, like they would be bigger in here. Something I need to work on, but it gives you, I call it a beauty shot. It gives you kind of an idea of the thing. Okay, and then this is again, I think maybe that was the one they actually used. Maybe they did have those little nubs on it and stuff because you know, I clap my hands that the guy's is a good artist, good model, or good good stuff on that. But anyways, it's kind of a okay. Here again, here is an original shot, black and white shot of the original model. This is actually the model that they used in Balanced Terror. And I don't know if it's either they had shot some of it, they had it on a trolley where it was rolling along the floor and they filmed shots of it. And then they actually, the one where the one I showed you earlier, where they're clicking. Actually, here's a good shot too. So here's a shot, I think. This is where they have it on the trolley, and you can see the guys laying on the side, and they're setting this up. This is actually a blue screen behind it. So they're filming this shot on this dolly with wheels. So that's a studio shot. And then they also had this, this is kind of a famous picture of it. They actually have a half circle with another half circle. And they got the wires. You can see the wires holding it. And this is how they kind of got the underside shot with the bird thing. And again, they got the big blue screen behind it. They got a little blue screen over here. But yeah, they had to actually just, back in those days, they blue screened the models and they shot different angles of them. And they actually usually moved the ship model in front of the camera. They didn't. By the time George Lucas started making Star Wars in the 70s, they started actually computerizing the cameras. But they also did things where they had the models computerized on things where they moved it around to get the shot. And then sometimes they actually moved the cameras and stuff around, and where when they were filming the Star Trek, the Enterprise model and the Klingon model and this Romulan model, they actually would roll it by the camera and stuff like that to get their blue screening. And they didn't have the computer, so what they did was they ended up, okay, I think I already showed you that, but I had made another shot of it or something. Because I actually named that picture V5 Romulan Bird of Prey and XO1 era, 1 Alpha. Kind of a thing. And and here's, I was telling you about the blueprints a little earlier. This shows the landing pads, and this shows how that bird's lined up on here, and it has in scale of meters, and it has all kinds of. This actually came out of a like a Star Trek technical manual thing. And here again, I said one of my beefs about this is that they have the engine so high, and the way he mated the wing to the bottom lip of the hull, the saucer hull, it kind of gives it a goofy angle. I don't know what he could have done different or how he could have fixed it. It's acceptable, it's history now. It's just the way it is. But like if we look at this shot again, especially it's at an angle, but you can see that since the bottom mates up and the top doesn't, in a sense, and the engines are level with the ship, it makes this pylon just shoot off at a weird angle. The trailing edge of this thing, of this wing / pylon, the leading edge is pretty rounded and kind of like straight up, but the connection points from this part of the engine to the back of the hull, it actually makes it. Like I said, this is pretty straight with the ship, but it makes the back part just kind of weird. Because what he also did too on this model was that this is almost like an airplane wing. It's rounded off where it connects. Other than it kind of cuts down around and it catches that bottom edge, and then it follows the bottom edge to a point in the back. Then all of a sudden it tapers up, and then this trailing edge he had, it was basically sharp. It wasn't rounded off. So it just kind of made it where it was like you go back to the blueprints, and then I think having this extreme angle with the you can see it back in the back here. Actually, that he keeps that angle consistent in the back, and he kind of keeps it consistent in the front, but it with it having to dang it, what did I do? Went the wrong way. Oh, this is kind of cool. Oh, yeah, the original bird of prey was 130 meters. And here's the bird of prey that's supposed to be that the NOx encounters, and it's 240 meters. It's 110 meters bigger, longer than this one. And this is called the Crucio da Batalla, which is a Klingon D7 that the Romulans supposedly, the story is they traded the cloaking technology to the Klingons. Klingons gave them the D7 and they gave them the cloaking devices. So this and this is supposed to be pretty much the same. These are all on scale to a point. And like this ship too, and the Next Generation, this was another one that is interesting because when you're watching the Next Generation, you think these are fairly, like that the Galaxy class starship is fairly the same size as this, but it's not. The Galaxy class starship could actually fit inside this area of this Romulan ship kind of thing. And okay, let's go back to the blueprints right quick. So anyways, you look at the top, it kind of you see this leading edge. It comes around and it has the leading edge, and the leading edge comes down, and it looks like the leading edge basically meets on that curve. And then that wing comes around on there, and then it curls up, and then it has the trailing edge, which has to curve up for them to catch that angle. And I kind of wonder if they ended up raising the engine nacelles and the pylons to get these angles right, to make them consistent with each other. Because if you notice, these are all parallel lines. But I think if you lowered those engines like they are in the picture, where they're a lot lower, it doesn't work. You don't have parallel lines. What you end up having is that your back trailing edge has a much higher angle. And then, like I said, this is a slight angle, but still, your trailing edge doesn't. You can see that, like at the top, it would be a lot thinner, and then the bottom, if you were looking straight on, even you would have a inconsistent angle. It wouldn't work like it's working in this blueprint. So I'm wondering if when the guy was working on this for the technical manual, if that's the reason that he has the engines where they're at, is so that these angles would work out. He just basically raised everything until he had perpendicular angles there, or I should say parallel, not perpendicular. So I'm thinking that's what he did. How he basically attained parallel angles is that he just lifted them up, but it makes them look way too thick. Also, in my opinion, it doesn't. Of course, it's a 2D picture too, so it's going to end up kind of looking like that. But looking from the sides, these engines look really cool and really big, and you're kind of like, wow, okay, cool. Looking from the front, yeah, they don't look like that's as big as round as that. It makes it look kind of weak. And then there's the top part. They show the wing kind of thing. So for the most part, and this is actually a blueprint. Blow this up a little bit. Because I want to show you something here. Okay. In the original episode, they show this room right here, the bridge. And it's interesting because the bridge is behind, here's your cloaking device. And actually, it's kind of funny because they called it a cloaking system. They didn't call it a cloaking device until they had the episode where Kirk gets the makeup to look like a Klingon, and he gets on he gets made up like a Romulan. He's supposedly dead, and he beams over onto the Romulan ship, and he steals the cloaking device, and they use that prop in like a couple shows. But on this, it is kind of funny because they, invisibility cloaking device, and they got that in this room. It's right in front of the bridge. And if you notice, this ship has 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 4 decks. And they show, they got a big tank here for the shuttlecraft bay, and they got the shuttlecraft. Now this is cool. Tell me if this doesn't look like Buck Rogers. Okay, again, here's the bridge. Here's the room that they had in the episode. Is this room right here, and then they got the cloaking device in this, and they got so this is like a sensor and deflector room, and I'll give them kudos again in some ways that they I don't know, I don't think it was on purpose, but you could argue that an alien race, you can't project human logic on aliens in a sense. So, because I would have said like, no, you should put all this stuff in the back, and then you should have the bridge up front, because you either have viewports and or windows and or whatever. And I thought it was interesting too because they didn't really have They didn't have like a view screen. They had guys looking in like the little view screens in the device, the guys with the helmets and stuff, and then the commander was in there with them and stuff. But it wasn't like the Enterprise where they're sitting there on the bridge and they got a nice big 80-inch TV screen to look at, and so and this guy's making this up, and he's actually making up this. I think he drew up these blueprints in like the early 70s, so it was after the show wasn't even in production. They made the model, they filmed the show, and then he had to take that model or the pictures of that model, because that model didn't exist anymore, because the original creator destroyed it. And he had to come up with this stuff. So this is for the technical manual. So, and he also has, see, there's emergency air storage. So, I don't see anything. I could be wrong, but I think I've looked this whole thing over before. They got big air tanks and stuff on here, but I'm pretty sure if you actually had, now here, this is interesting. Here's your shuttle bay aircraft, and here's your shuttlecraft maintenance shop, and one of the bays, and then you have same thing, and then they show the shuttlecraft from above. And this thing's supposed to be a three-man shuttlecraft. It's supposed to be 3 guys climbing this. And you got a little tiny wing on the back, and you got a little tiny thruster, and you got the little tripod support legs, and you got the little ladder, and like the I don't know if the bubble dome hydraulically lifts up like a fighter plane, or if the whole thing lifts up. But I kind of got a kick out of it because one of the other things I've thought about doing too was like refiguring out a shuttle for this thing, because you know, Romulans weren't exactly like Klingons, but like they're not a warrior race like the Roman Empire, but they were kind of sort of like Native Americans, or they weren't a timid race. They were kind of a supposedly sneaky spy race kind of a thing, but they still were kind of supposed to be kind of like a belligerent warrior race to a point. So I think to do them justice, the Enterprise had a little square shuttle thing, and you think you could put like 8 or 9 people in the thing. And these guys are supposed to have this little thing where you got 3 guys, like so. If he was going to fly over to the Enterprise to have a meeting, or if he was, they agreed to meet somewhere, and I doubt the Romulans would want to take they could take 6 people with these 2 shuttles, and that'd be kind of ridiculous. Oh well, unless they just had sensors and they say, you know what, we're going to bring our 6 guys down, you bring your 6 guys down, or something like that. And see, these shuttle bays ain't even big enough. The Enterprise shuttle couldn't even land on this thing, and they had let's zoom out of this. And let's go back down to size. Do I go this way? This is showing the different decks. Oh, there's a bigger shot of that. Same thing, it was on that gimbal. Okay, here's your shuttle bay doors. And like I said, it just this wasn't on the original model. So this guy added this in later. So I said I'd give him kudos for making this stuff up, making it work. I think he could have done better in some ways, because even as small as this ship is, instead of having 2 little teeny weeny shuttles that didn't seem like he put a lot of thought into, they're just little, looks like an egg with a canopy. And another thing that I haven't seen on these, they didn't seem like to have like transporter technology like the Enterprise had transporters. And one of the reasons the Enterprise had transporters is because in the first season they didn't have the money. Here's your ramp. Here's your landing leg ramp thing. Okay, you can see it there again. Let's click back. You can quit. There we go. Zoom back in here right quick. I'll wrap this up because I'm almost at an hour. Here's your little leg. Like this landing pad comes down, and this is actually a ramp right here. This is a walk ramp, so you can walk up in the ship and go down in the ship. And see, he shows the ship's self-destruct, so this must be the bomb, because they ended up using those. They were like a nuclear bomb, and they ended up putting it in here somehow. It don't even look like it would fit, like it would be too big. But they ended up putting it in there and shooting it towards the Enterprise and stuff like that. Like I said, he's got all this stuff. Yeah, he calls that a support wing. I call it a pylon wing, because it holds the engines. And anyway, like I said, I think I have looked this thing over. Water revitalizers, but I haven't seen anything. Bunk beds, twin beds. I haven't seen anything. Laundry unit. They must be Sonic as a laundry. Air conditioning, air machinery. I haven't seen any transporters on this ship. There's their beds, bunk beds, and little rooms and stuff like that. And it wasn't a gigantic ship, but it's an interesting ship. I want to finish 3D modeling it, but I definitely wanted to do this, what I call more of the original era. Okay, I'm getting ready to wrap this up. Another thing I wanted to show you right quick, like, I gotta go into my actual Blender, see documents. Is that it? Oh yeah, except for all my ship stuff. Yeah, maybe I won't show you. I thought I... Here we go. Klingon. The original series, Bird of Prey. Let's see, Blender file. Let's see if I can find, here we go. This was actually, I was working on an idea for like a Klingon bird of prey, and the idea was that this is a small Klingon ship. It's more like the size of, a little bit smaller than like the bird of prey, but I was trying to give it the flavor of the D7. So as you can tell, it's got the neck, it's got the round part with the, which it was originally it was a torpedo launch, and then they kind of made it into, actually they had supposedly had sonic disruptors that kind of shot off the engines, but then somebody was pointing out that a sonic weapon wouldn't work in a vacuum of space because the sound waves don't travel. So that was kind of funny because their original disruptor technology was supposed to be sonic weapons. And anyway, this was supposed to be kind of like a phaser, and then their sonic photons torpedo things used to shoot off the engines. But I kind of modeled the engines to look somewhat like the D7 engine, but smaller. And then I was trying to give it like the wings, maybe make these wings to where they hinge up and hinge down, but give it kind of the neck. I wanted it to look like a small D7, but kind of have the flavor of the bird of prey. Here's the top shot, and like I said, this is just a preliminary. You know, I was trying to make it look cool, but I wanted this to be kind of like a scout bird of prey, Klingon bird of prey original series. This actually is a Klingon shuttlecraft that I was working on, and you can tell again but I wanted it with the idea that if they made a shuttlecraft to come out of the D7 in the original series, and they said, hey, you know, dude, you got 2 weeks, you got to make this thing, and you got to make a full-size one because we're going to film it, or we're going to film the model, or we're going to film where the Klingons land on a planet or something like that. So based on kind of what they did with the Galileo 7, I was conjecturing that the Klingons would have a bigger shuttle. It would carry maybe 15, 20 guys. It would carry more people. So it has these big engines that look kind of like D7 engines, but and it also has these pads that are underneath it. Here's what it looks like from the side. But I wanted to give it some like some mean angles. Here's from the top. See how it's tapered? I like the way it looks from the top, and then it has the engine, it has the landing pads and stuff. And again, I wanted it to have the original series flavor. Oops. That's what I was riding on in Desert Storm. That's not actually a picture of the tank I was on in Desert Storm, but that was the type of tank I was on in Desert Storm. But so anyways, I'm going to wrap it up with that, and hope you enjoyed this. I know I'm long-winded. Give me a thumbs up if you like the ideas for these projects and/or what you think. And I hope it didn't bore you to death. And you know, if you like this kind of stuff, I'll make some more videos about it, but I'll make it shorter. I'm planning on doing some tutorials if I actually draw some things out. And God bless. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next video.